You've entered the black hole of real estate for real estate news, industry secrets, and tips, and what's going on in the market. This is Ron Weiss-Sikarski, your host, and we are all set for episode number 17. This week we want to talk about the predictions that we made regarding the market back in May as to what was going to happen in June, July, and into August, and see if they were validated. Market stats, that's a big piece of the puzzle, but it's not everything. And what can actually stop this market? Well, we're going to talk about that too. And at the end, we're going to talk about 3 tips for buyers in a COVID market. So the first thing I want to talk to you about today is predictions, because May and June's sales, they were not in alignment. The May sales, well, they had just jumped off a cliff for condos and for single family homes. And there was some concern that this was the edge of the pricing market and prices would drop precipitously and make it so that it would become a feeding frenzy for buyers to take advantage of sellers that were struggling in this market. But a funny thing happened along the way. We didn't see any signs that prices were going to drop, and the fact is they didn't. If anything, they've gone up a little bit. A few things have happened to conspire to make that possible, but the main thing is that pent-up buyer demand, maybe that wasn't the thing at all. It's the other things. It's the cost of money with record low interest rates. That's a big thing. Low inventory absolutely is a big thing. And by the way, people still want to move. So we can dismiss COVID as a reason against moving. Now, it's going to play out a little bit differently as we get through time, but let's just take a look at some of these numbers. So the first thing I want to talk about is the change in the sales numbers from May of 2020 into June. Because in May, there was only 350 sales, and it seemed like the end of the world. But we knew that maybe that end was temporary. Well, validated, because there was over 500 in sales in June, more than a 50% increase. By the way, the median price was also up about 7% since May. So that's a really telling statistic. It was an anomaly, as predicted in the month of May. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is the fact that the sales stats from last year also show improvement in 2020. So go figure this. When you look at last June, we saw 480 sales. This year, over 500. And the median sales price was up, about 10% as well. So we got strong numbers from last year to this year in a COVID environment. What we now know is that buyers have largely dismissed COVID as an effect on the market. It just keeps going. Now, is there anything in this trend that would have a little concern to me? Well, overall the units this year, total units sold is down about 5%. So if there's one thing that's going wrong with this market right now, it's inventory, because it's trending in the wrong direction. Last year at this time, we had nearly 2,500 homes available for buyers to take a look at and purchase and select from. This year is less than 2,000. So with a dramatic 20% drop in inventory, this puts a lot of pressure on the market. It's part of the reason that buyers are competing at this time. Multiple offers, and still we're seeing some homes selling for above the asking price. Now, will this continue? That remains to be seen, but there's a lot of pressure on the market due to low inventory. The fact is, it's a lot easier for a buyer to perform in this market. They can go to a vacant home, they can social distance with their realtor, they can do a virtual showing, any number of strategies to be able to identify the right property. Now, getting it under contract, whole different story, but there's a lot of ways for buyers to work through COVID, and they're doing it very successfully. It's the sellers. How does one become comfortable introducing different people into your home environment if you're still living there? Even though you may want to move, there is a concern. How do you do it safely? And until there's some medical reason for that to ease itself or make sellers feel more comfortable, we're going to be in this low inventory environment. That's why this market is likely to continue just as it is. A hot number of sales and an increased median sales price. This continues to be the future. We have a huge inventory problem right now. And what's that solution going to be? Well, I have some thoughts on that. So what are these solutions for inventory? Well, we could see a massive dump by the hedge funds that bought all those properties 10 years ago when the bottom did fall out between 2008 all the way through 2010, and all of those bank foreclosures, the ones that aren't coming right now. This just in, there is no new batch of foreclosures coming. So if you're banking your hopes on getting a great deal or half price on a home, that's not where it's going to come from. Now, if the hedge funds do decide for some reason to massively dump all those properties, which they're performing really well in the rental, probably not going to happen. But if that was to happen, that might be one way to introduce an insane amount of property on the market. By the way, don't think that's going to happen. So what's the next way that we can introduce more property onto the market? Well, a spike in interest rates in the upward direction over time will increase the inventory rolls as homes become less affordable. So that would be one way to increase the inventory because less are selling. So over time, as more come on the market and less sell, that will gradually increase the number of homes available. But it's not actually a solution to more homes on the market. It's more homes lingering on the market, taking longer to sell. I think we can absolutely rule out COVID as a reason for anything right now. The real estate market is really just rejecting it. COVID has become part of the fabric of our life and the stresses that go along with it. But real estate is happening despite COVID, despite a number of things that are going on. Hey, and it's hurricane season. Anybody talking about that yet? Well, not yet, but there's tropical storms out there. Those are interruptions to the pattern as well of home sales and listing of properties. And it might be said that some of the hurricanes have actually had a longer lasting effect than COVID. Go figure. So the thing that can absolutely put the brakes on this market is the inventory. And if there's a lack of inventory and nothing new coming on the market, certainly not at a sustainable rate, this will dead end the market. Regardless of interest rates and regardless of pent-up demand, if there's simply not enough donuts on the shelf to buy, there's nothing to buy. There's not going to be any sales. So we are definitely in a situation where the inventory has us at the mercy of the market. So we got to hope that we see these homes start to come on the market. No one knows. There's no arm twisting going on. There's no real way to go to a seller and say, hey, we need some more inventory on the market to help the industry move forward. Would you please sell your home? That conversation is probably not happening, but it's a dilemma. There's not yet a solution for that. A vaccine, that might help. Magical cure for COVID, that would help. But there's other things in play right now. But that's where we are right now on the inventory cycle. So what do we want to talk about next? How about some tips for buyers? You see, in this market, buyers need a strategy. And we would often say, as a consultant, that it's important to have your money ready, to get pre-qualified, get a letter from your banker, on letterhead, so we can write an offer. That would be important. Or your bank statement, that would be important too. And that's so 2019. I mean, if you have that, that's not even the minimum standard right now. That's just an opportunity to get in line. So if you're not prepared with a bank statement and you're not prepared with a pre-qual letter, do not apply here, because that is so 2019. Without that, you are dead in the water. You are not going to get the best homes at the best prices without it. Don't even think about it. So, tips. How about don't lowball? Tip number one. If you want the property, offer what you're willing to pay. When you lowball in this market with competing offers, the seller might dismiss you out of hand. And if there's 2, 3, 4, 5 offers and one's a lowball, you may not make it to the second round of double jeopardy. You might never get a chance to pay what you're willing to pay because you simply started too low. Now, I'm not asking you to overbid. That's up to you. But if you know the home is listed at $250 and you know that you'll pay $250 and you want to come in at $190 or $200 or $210, save everybody's time and energy. That's probably not going to happen, especially for a house that just hit the market. Homes are flying off the shelves if they're priced well. If you're waiting for that type of a deal, go find a property that's been on the market for 1.5 years so you can feel good about getting $50,000 off the list price. Yeah, but this just in, that $250,000 list price for a home that was on the market for over 1 year should have never been listed at $250. It probably should have been listed at $200. So if you get them down to $200 and feel victorious because you were a great negotiator, well, congratulations. You bought a home for $200, that's worth $200. That's where the market is right now. So if it's lingering on the market and you feel like you need to get less than the list price, hey, more power to you. The fact is, knowing what the price is in today's market is the key. I can tell you from personal experience that I bought a number of homes over the last several years. And I can tell you that the 3 primary residences that we have bought, our family, each one of them, we paid the list price. And why? Because it was worth it. You see, sometimes the list price is a great price, and you need confidence in your pricing to be sure that if you're paying list price, it's worth it. And a top realtor would know if it's the right price to pay. You know, recently, we actually bought the beach house, which you guys know about. We got a little off on the list price, and you know, this just in, we might have paid the list price too, but the seller and us, we had the same motivation. We actually got a little bit off, and we're happy for that. In this market, if you want the property, you need to come strong for it. Now that may change in 6 months or a year or tomorrow. We don't know that, but today you need to come strong. So that's tip number 1. Don't lowball. Now, tip number 2. It's not often used, but there's a such thing as an escalator clause. And you're wondering, what's an escalator clause? Well, this just in, it helps you not get outbid up to your price. So let's suppose that the listing price is $250 and you want to offer $240. This way you have a chance at your $240, but if you know you're willing to pay $250 or even $255, well, how would you let the seller know that? You insert an escalator clause. And what happens is this. It automatically ups your bid. Whenever another competing bid comes in and they have to provide the evidence. So here's what it looks like. You offer $240 and it's first day on the market and 2 other competing offers come in. Let's suppose, and they're not going to tell you what they are, by the way, but there's a good way to find out. Let's suppose that the other offers were $242 and $243. Your escalator clause typically would say that you are willing to increase your offer to a certain amount of money above a competing offer that they can verify and show you. So if the offer for $242 and $243 comes in and they come back to you and say, your offer is lower than the others, but hey, you've got this escalator clause. Here's a copy of the contract that we just received at $243. You will escalate to $244, and that could become your property at $244. Now, it could say that you go up to a limit of $250 or $255 or whatever number that you choose. So you might have to compete a little bit more, but you can put a limit of time on this offer as well, if you're willing to risk losing the property. So let's suppose in a different way, because we had one of these recently, and here's what took place. The property was listed at $275, and the offers came in, and there were 6 of them. And there was a smart agent and buyer combination that said that they would pay up to a certain price above $285. You know, $286, $287, $290. We actually had 2 escalator clauses that were competing, that were automatically pushing the price up on each other. And we actually had a solid offer written as a backup offer for $10,000 above full price. Well, as the escalators kicked in, it just did this. It went from $275, which was the first offer we received, full price, quick closing, $277, $278, $279, $280. It just kept going up to $285. And then one tapped out because that was their limit, so the next one was victorious. And they earned that property. And the fact is that property was listed a little bit below the market because we wanted to sell it in a day or two and have multiple backup offers. So that seller's strategy absolutely works. So for you, an escalator clause could be a way to get the property that you want at the price that you want without overbidding. Now, you would say, geez, I got pushed all the way up to $285. Well, if you know in your heart that you want that property, and you know from your research of the market that property could have been listed at $300, well, $285 might be a bargain. The seller's strategy really plays into what took place in this, because that property easily could have been listed at $300,000. And you know what? We might have got that same offer, $280, $285. The buyer might have felt, gee, I got 10 or 15 off the property. The fact is, that's the price. $285 is the price. It's been verified with 6 offers on the market competing. And that's how this game is won. So if you're not using an escalator clause, and let's say you missed out on 3 or 4 offers, and you haven't used one, absolutely the tip of the week. Use an escalator clause. Now, the last thing I can give you, the third tip, is to pre-buy. Now, what does that mean? There are some buyers in this market that may not even realize they can actually buy their next house without selling their current house. You're asking how that works. Well, it's pretty simple. You go to your lender, because you're going to do it anyways, and say, just, hey, out of curiosity, could I buy my next house before I complete the sale of this house? So if you have enough money in the bank, you know, for your down payment, whether it's 5, 10, 20%, whatever that's going to be, and you qualify using the income of what you're currently receiving and they calculate your current mortgage payment plus the next one. If you fit within guidelines, you can absolutely buy the next house. Now, is there a little bit of risk and double payments? Yes, but here's how it plays out. If you're to close, say, on August 15th, your first mortgage payment is not going to be until October 1st because you're going to pay the interest through September 1st. If you put your property on the market at a similar time and close on the new property first, you've got time to clean, paint, renovate, and move in piece by piece, all the while getting your home ready for the market. And let's just suppose that your home goes on the market around August 20th, August 25th, 10, 15 days after the closing of the one you bought. You've got yourself all cleaned up and moved in. Your house goes on the market, and it could sell as quick as 30 or 60 days in this market. We've seen it. You may possibly have one, maybe two double payments, but it's not likely because you're going to control the price on the sale of your home. So if your lender qualifies you to pre-buy your house, now you can take your time, go out there, select the home that you want, and when it goes under contract, you can immediately put your home on the market and try to line up those sales. But if it falls a little bit short, you're still okay. You can close on a new house, and then shortly thereafter, the one you're living in, well, that will close out. I know that we've used this strategy twice in the last 5 years, and here's what the benefit is. We closed on the house. We were able to put in the floors, the paint, all the treatments on the windows, remodel, put some granite down, quartz in our case, change out kitchen cabinets, put in a coffee and wine bar. All those things were went in beforehand, and we moved each room in one by one by one. We didn't have to worry about going back, a year or 2 years down the road and moving all the furniture all over the house to get it in the right spot. We already did that, and we benefit. We've been in the house for 5 years. We barely had to move anything since then, so it's been huge for us. And the house we were in, it sold, within a month or so after that we closed. It didn't affect us, and we were able to get the right price in the right house without pressure on our new home to move into. And then we could hold out for exactly what we wanted on the sale of our home. So we feel like we won on both sides. We got the right house at the right price with no pressure. And then we were able to hold out in the market, which didn't take long. It took about 2 weeks total to get the right price. So we feel like we won on both sides for doing that. So third tip for the buyer, pre-buy if you can do it. Well, that's it for this week. We look forward to seeing you again on the Black Hole of Real Estate next week.